You may know Kenny. Kenny Bomer recently had a debate with David Wood. He's an Imam from Texas who sometimes speaks of his support about the struggle of the black community in America and how he identifies with prejudice and bigotry due to being a white Texan who converted to Islam. Perhaps you've even seen him with his security guards, his black security guards. Why point that out? Well, as you'll see in this encounter and the victim testimony, Kenny does not actually sympathize at all with the black community. In fact, he makes racial slurs and remarks about whipping black people, reminding us of an ugly history of slave traders and slave owners whipping their slaves. This takes place in a supermarket where Kenny apparently said some things that caused a fellow shopper to step in and tell him that that's no way to speak to a woman. Let's watch together. There you have it. And the victim of the Imam of Kenny's racism goes on to write that Kenny proceeded to say more racial slurs to him when exiting the supermarket. Now, what would motivate a convert to Islam, an Imam nonetheless, to be racist? Well, here's Daughter of Christ with the answer. Over to you.
What would motivate an Imam to be racist? That's easy. It's the sources of the religion he chose to follow. Contrary to the usual woke snowflake narrative that the wrong he did was nothing to do with Islam, here are the Muslim sources that show that his racism is no different from Muhammad's own racism. In fact, Muhammad's racism and put-downs of black people was way worse. I don't know the racial slurs Kenny used against that gentleman outside the supermarket, but if he had lived at Muhammad's time, he would have called that gentleman a raisin head. Sahih al-Bukhari 7142 narrated Anas ibn Malik that Allah's Messenger said, "You should listen to and obey your ruler, even if he was an Ethiopian black slave whose head looks like a raisin." He said you must obey any leader you have, even in a worst-case scenario, which in Muhammad's view was that if he was black. Here, he says Satan looked like a black man. From the Life of Muhammad, the book called Sirat Rasulullah, page 243, the Apostle said, "Whoever wants to see Satan, let him take a look at Nabtal ibn Harith. He was a sturdy black man with long flowing hair, inflamed eyes, and dark ruddy cheeks. What's worse, he even says the plague in a dream is a black woman with unkempt hair. He even mocks black hair, which we all know is of a certain texture, which he calls unkempt." Sahih Bukhari 7040. The Prophet said, "I saw in a dream a black woman with unkempt hair going out of Medina and settling in Mahya. I interpreted that as a symbol of an epidemic of Medina being transferred to Mahya." All Sahih Hadiths, people. Don't let them tell you it's weak. They're all authentic Hadiths. They've already tricked you enough by saying Islam is the way for black people out of a supremacy system. Yep, straight into another supremacy, an evil Arab supremacist religion that disrespects and denigrates black people. Look here what Muhammad thought of black people. He would exchange 2 black slaves for 1 Arab slave because he believed they were half the value. When Muhammad realized he was not free, when his master came to claim him, he said, "Sell him to me," and he bought him for 2 black slaves. And look at the name of the chapter this hadith is under, where he exchanged those poor black people. The permissibility of selling animals for animals of the same kind and of different quality. If you're a black person who thinks Islam thinks you're equal, you've been lied to, you've been deceived, you've been played, and you've been had. Muhammad enslaved black people. Look at the black slave who drove his camels here. The black slave who had to take his permission before admitting his visitors to enter. The black slave who carried his luggage. Look at them and wake up. Denounce the religion of slave master, black people hating, Arab supremacist, white prophet, Muhammad. Islam is so anti-black people that if anyone mistakenly called their prophet black, he was to be killed. This is from Al-Shifa by Qadi Iyad, 6th century Hijri classic widely accepted as the best, most comprehensive book about the Messenger of Allah. A book so highly admired that it acquired almost a sanctity of its own. So don't just condemn Kenny, condemn his racist religion and prophet now. Thank you.